Let's begin here by adding a few more roles for line to your toolkit. I begin here by drawing a frame on my page so that I can change the drawing's format to dimensions that better fit my design plan. This also gives me a bit of room to move the edges of the frame later in the drawing as things develop. You'll see, then at this point I'm doing a good deal of just assessing relationships between things, using that angle tool, using that grid tool to determine where I'm going. And then you'll see me drop a plumb line down the middle of the page. This is an axis, the central vertical axis of my drawing. A horizontal line through the center would be another axis, but here I've determined that the division between left and right of the page or direction along that vertical axis are more important to the form I see. There are simple structures, but a lot of decisions early on. And you should have noticed, the time taken just comparing things at the beginning. Every line counts. So, with that axis, you don't just put a set of crosshairs in the middle of the page. You construct it with some care. Another new organizing line you'll see here is also axis. Axis means center line, and so its double meaning is the center line or quadrants of your drawing or design and the center line of observed objects, the direction that runs through a form spatially. If this is starting to sound like a lot of junk to keep straight, let's simplify again and call the material introduced in these first two videos straight line tools. In fact, we can construct the entire drawing through layers of straight lines in various weight, direction, speed, grouping, value, and length. If everything returns to straight lines, directions, divisions, and descriptions, then I have room to flip back and forth in that double form, making decisions about form that springs from the flat design and form that evokes the three-dimensional space or volumes. Now here's the key thing. If you don't see relevant places to use axis, extension, angles, and grid within your drawing, if you don't see visual pathways that move between forms, continue eventful directions, create abstract movements related to how you perceive your subject, if you can't find a basis for these organizing lines, for this straight line tool, if there's no relationship of that sort, then you have a problem. Then you have weak form. Then you have a bad premise for a drawing. Then you have ill-conceived design. You chose or framed an obscure or confusing point of view. Oh, the horror! You've got a situation there that this is why we work from big to small. This is why we work from general to specific. Looking for those key directions and divisions and interesting relationships across the space from the start. If you don't see these abstract relationships, these repetitions, continuity, and differences, which are what design is made of, in the first minutes, they're probably not going to arrive. You try a new angle, try reframing it, this is the whole game. This stuff is the structure, the skeleton of volumetric and compositional form. Without a skeleton, you're just putting together a confusing pile of goo. You get the idea. So, there's going to be some time lapse as this drawing proceeds. Again, I think that this is drawing somewhere in the range of 45 minutes to an hour. Part of what you're trying to do at this stage in learning to develop, both develop gradually, but also to work quickly in some sense. The way that you're making these sort of series of propositions about the drawing. Part of what you're doing here is that you're making time for later. Like if you can develop, this structural approach, there's going to be more things later that will allow you to build on these drawings in longer sessions, in works that go for multiple hours. So I just think it's kind of important to look ahead in that sense, for how this this process is partly changing how you handle things, so that we can again make room for more things to happen within the drawing, and for this layered approach to really over the course of the coming weeks develop. So I just want you to look for a minute. I'm going to say a couple more things, but I just want you to look for a minute at the way that these lines I've talked about are still present in the drawing, how some of those lines are being readdressed, some softened, some brought back up to be more important, how the design, in some sense, some of those initial ideas are there and have been built on, and some new ideas have been found. I think here at the end, I'm gonna show you a couple more ideas about design that will be useful to you looking forward. So I'm just gonna again highlight design ideas that I'm putting together at the end of the video, playing with editing tools. So pardon the pan and zoom. And you should look for how these things play a role in future videos. The subject is visual completion, and it's a pretty crucial concept for what creates visual interest in a work. And visual interest has obvious implications for the form that precedes naming, because it's information not shown in full, and something that is implied such that the viewer completes it mentally. So there's more there than what is spelled out, and some mystery.